Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. Today's service explores equity and just how hard it is to see the dignity of each and every person. Our opening hymn is "I'm Gonna Lift My Sister Up." Please rise in body or spirit. Please remain standing for the chalice lighting.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy McKlindon. My pronouns are she, her, and I am your worship associate this morning. Please join me as we recite our covenant, and Jade Barker, sound extraordinaire, and here today as a congregant of this community on one of her first Sundays off in a very long time, lights our chalice. Thank you so much. And if you're watching remotely and have a chalice with you, please light it with us. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to share our strength in fellowship, thus do we covenant. Please be seated.
Good morning. My name is the Reverend Christine Dance. I use she and her pronouns, and I wear glasses now. You're applauding that I wear, I should applaud, I can see. And somebody said today that I looked like a talk show host, and I'll take that. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. No matter where you are from, how you worship, how you identify, or what your family structure looks like, you are welcome here. Welcome home, welcome to worship. Welcome as we explore the mysteries of being human together in community. We are so glad you're here. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix strives to be a spiritual community for our time, one that is theologically diverse, radically inclusive, hold on to that inclusive word, we'll be talking about that today, and justice-centered. If you are new here, we are so glad you found us. Each week is a little bit different, so come for a few to see what this is all about. And if you are willing and able, would you stand so we can see who is new here today? You can wave if you're not, Wonderful. I invite those who are around those folks to make sure that you say hi to you all, and make you feel welcome. This morning, we are so excited to welcome two members of our music team while our music director is on sabbatical. Jessica Elder is our sabbatical choir director. And Christine Kine is our choir accompanist. We are so thrilled to have both of you with us this season, and we have so much gratitude for you and, of course, our amazing choir. We have a few announcements today. Help our civic engagement team gather signatures for the Arizona Abortion Access Ballot Initiative. They are in Office 2 every Sunday from 9:15 to 10:15. There's lots of information on the civic engagement team. And the UUCP Earth Justice Ministry will be attending the Sierra Club's Environmental Day at the Capitol on Thursday morning. It is important to have our UU voice heard to protect our democracy and care for the environment. You can email earthjustice@PhoenixUU if you want to be part of that. And this Friday, you are not going to want to miss it. There is a concert by Joe Jenks, a progressive and passionate musician working for our collective liberation. Here is a video from Joe himself, and Sam will be selling tickets in the back after the service. And if you are not able to afford a ticket, I have some that I can give to you. Let's hear from Joe.
Hi, this is Joe Jenks, and I'm delighted to be performing at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix on Friday, the 26th of January, 2024, coming up in just a little over a week. You can expect a lot of interesting things out of this performance, but mostly what you can expect is a lot of diverse and really good music. If you want to know more information about my music, there are all kinds of links up on my website, which is joejenks.com, JoeJenks.com. Here's a little sample. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. I said, wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. See you on Friday the 26th.
Woo. I know you all don't listen to everything that I say, but Joe is TBS, which my kids tell me is to be seen. Please join us on Friday. And now let us draw deeper into the present moment of our worship.
Our opening words this morning are an excerpt from Amanda Gorman's poem, An Ode We Owe. The oldest ode we owe to each other, we chime it for the climate. For our communities, we shall respect and protect every part of this planet. Hand it to every heart on this earth until no one's worth is rendered by the race, gender, class, or identity they were born. This morn, let it be sworn that we are one human kin, grounded not just by the griefs we bear, but by the good we begin. To anyone out there, I only ask that you care before it's too late, that you live aware and awake, that you lead with love in hours of hate. I challenge you to heed this call. I dare you to shape our fate. Above all, I dare you to do good so that the world might be great. And now I invite anyone who would like to come forward for Together time.
You're like a rocket. Yes, our teacher is Miss Elder.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Katie Resendez, and I'm the Director of Children's Ministry here at UUC Phoenix. Have you ever had a rock that you love that is heavy and round and smooth, and when you hold it in your hand, it makes you feel round and smooth, and you can rub your fingers over it, and it just gives you a sense of peace and a sense of stop. And they stack kind of nicely together. And you can even walk on them if there's a lot of them, and they're fairly comfortable with bare feet. Have you had rocks like that? Yeah. We call those smooth stones or river rocks, and they've been worn away by time. But there are other rocks. And these rocks are jagged. And when I put them in my hand, I'm automatically called to keep moving them and spinning them around and trying to figure out where they fit. I'm trying to figure out how to hold them the best, and I still like them. They're still nice and cool, but they're jagged. Yeah, you can take those for a second. There are two modern theologians in Unitarian Universalism, Reverend Nancy Bowen, and I've forgotten the name of the second one. I promise I will look it up for you all. Imperfection is part of this, right? Who talked about our faith as having 5 jagged rocks. How many rocks are here, Addie?
5.
Oh, what a coincidence. Thank goodness. So we know that we have 8 principles. We're moving into our values. Some people talk about the smooth stones of Unitarian Universalism. Today I want to talk about the jagged rocks, because these are the tough ones, the ones that stick with us and are kind of hard. They don't stack up very well. But we'll start with all souls are sacred and worthy. We know this echoes a lot in our first principle, right? The inherent worth and dignity of every person. And we also know that lots of people say that this is the hardest one, that everyone is sacred and worthy. When I leave my house and I get in my car and someone cuts me off in traffic, it's hard to remember that that person is also a divine entity, right? What if I told you that was the easiest of the jagged rocks? So we know that everyone is sacred and worthy, and that in anyone we see, there's divinity. And so even the people who are frustrating us, but moreover, even the world leaders who are taking lots of powers and doing things we don't agree with, where is the divinity in them? And that's a hard one to hold. But it's a solid one, and it's one that we can keep mulling over. What do we have there? Courageous love. This one sounds so beautiful and sweet and wonderful, and oh Lord, it's a lot of work. Because this one isn't about be brave in loving your neighbor, because that's in the divinity and worthiness. This one is about falling in love with the hard freaking work of the world and having passion in that love. This is about that work we do for justice, that work we do for what's right, is lighting yourself on fire for it. Maybe not literally, but at least letting your soul flame for it. And knowing that, yes, it's about going to protest, but it's also when you're in the grocery store and you see someone be really unkind, to not just go, that person's a jerk, but to actually remember that you are in love with your courage and your fight for justice, and that it calls to you to make a change and do something right then. This one is a lot of work. Let's see, what's that one? Salvation in this life. Oh no, it's scary, that's a church word, salvation. You're Unitarian, they're all church words. So salvation in this life says that we don't put all of our energy to getting into heaven, right? We're not saying, oh, we're gonna be good here because once we die, we get to go to a blessed place. That might happen, that might be true. But what we're called to focus on, what this rock makes us work over and over again, is that it's our responsibility to make this life good. And that means in big ways with our politics, but it also means things like, can everyone get into this building? Have we made this a welcoming and beloved home for everyone who wants to be here? It also means things like, that plastic straw wrapper, what are you doing with it? Because it's not going to heaven with you, but you're already here. And it's your responsibility to make here good. And that's a lot of work. Can you imagine having to build heaven right here in front of us? That would be really hard. And it would take a lot of people and a lot of work. But we're desert folks, right? We can do hard stuff. Okay. Let's see. Now let's see, we talked about all souls are worthy and sacred, salvation in this life, courageous love, and then Addie had truth revealed. We are Unitarian Universalists, we go to school, we are all very smart, and that is important, and we know what is true and real, right? And facts are facts. Oh no, what if there's an entire stone that says we have to be willing to change our mind, and we have to be willing to accept new truths as they come to us? And not just because someone proved it so, not just because we read all the research, but sometimes things are just true because they're just true. Like Riz is a word. What? It's just true. Okay, Revelation is not closed. Okay. So that can be a hard one, especially if we are figuring out our own beliefs or faced with other people's beliefs, and we have something that's so core to us. Figuring out that we might learn something new or see something new in someone else's beliefs is a tricky stone. And that comes to this one, unity. Unity is another one that sounds easy. It sounds like we're all in this together. We love each other. We're all here together. Yeah, that's part of it. But what if it's theological unity? What if it's unity of belief? Because so often in Unitarian Universalism, we say, well, you might believe in one thing. We saw your coming of age presentation. We saw what you believed. We saw your coming of age presentation, and it was different. And you talked about different stuff, and the core values were the same, but I know that what you believe is different and what you believe is different, and some of you might experience the divine as a voice that comes into you in a quiet moment of prayer, and some of you might only experience the divine when you see a chemistry experiment work, right? So our unity becomes, how do we create space for all of those together And for all of those to be saying the same thing, because Unitarian Universalism is not, you can believe whatever you want, but it is that what you believe unifies with everyone else under some principles, under some values, and some tenets that we share. And that can be really hard to think about. Because if each of you held a different rock and we tried to put them all together and just make a beautiful straight line stack wall, it probably wouldn't work. Let's try. Go ahead. But we have to have
Curves.
We have to have the curves and the spaces to fit into one another. And our rocks call us to do that hard work and keep turning them over and over in our hands and in our minds and in our hearts so that we remember that we are so blessed and so lucky to have a faith that challenges us and calls us to do hard work and a wonderful community to do hard work with. Thank you.
Each week, we practice generosity as a source of affirming our values by splitting our offering plate with UUCP and a local organization that shares our values. For January 2024, our Share the Plate partner is Mindfulness First. I would like to invite Jarrett Ransom, member of UUCP, and Jessica Smith from Mindfulness First to tell us more about this organization.
Good morning, and thank you for having us up here. Katie, thank you. That was wonderful. It's been a long time since I've come up front. As you just heard, my name is Jarrett Ransom. I also use she, her pronouns. And as a member of this congregation, albeit mostly from YouTube, it's wonderful to be here wearing both hats as also an employee of Mindfulness First. Also, thank you for choosing us for Share the Plate charity this month. It's been wonderful. And just wanted to mention, back in September, Superintendent Tom Horn made a critical decision which impacted our programming significantly in our K through 12 classrooms, which removed social emotional learning from our classrooms, and that is a big piece of that is our programming. It also significantly impacted us financially by $424,000 that were removed from our budget. So glad to have Jessica Smith here today to talk to you and share a little practice about what we share in the classrooms with our children. Again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name's Jessica Smith. I also use she, her pronouns, and I'm so happy to be here today. Yes, it really did make a huge impact on our organization, and we do some really great stuff in a lot of underprivileged communities, in all different communities, and make our programming really inclusive to everyone. And I was just here to show you just a real quick practice of something that we do in the classrooms. We work on emotional regulation, mental health for teachers, for students, for communities in general. So a really fun practice that we do with the kids, with the teachers, with everyone is called our roller coaster breath. And the best thing about that is you only need your hand and your breath to do it. So if you want to join along with me, I'm going to invite you to put up one hand and then take the opposite hand and put out your index finger. We start but at the point where our wrist and our thumb come together, and as you breathe in, you're going to come up with the finger. And as you breathe out, go down real slow. Again, breathe in and up, out and down. 2, 3 more times. Long breath out. 2 more times. and out. Last time. And this time, take a long, slow, deep breath out as you move down. Good job, everyone. I feel calmer already. When we make those longer exhales, it actually calms our whole nervous system. And as adults, if we are more calm, our children will be more calm. So thank you so much for doing this practice with me today, and thank you so much for having us here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jarrett and Jessica, for being with us today. May we be committed to using the gifts we give today to make a difference in our world. Ushers, thank you for your willing hands in this ritual of sacred giving.
Thank you, Christine. It is an important practice in this community to make time to share pieces of our lives with one another. Sharing them together, we can amplify our joys and lessen our burdens. If you are on Zoom, please feel free to type into the chat a brief note on what is in your heart today. And if you're in the sanctuary today, there's a table in the back with these cards. As we open this time to share in our community, let us open our hearts to the joys and sorrows that are going to be shared and those that remain in our hearts. Online, I have from Danny up in our video booth, Joy, my father, who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer a few months ago, has been undergoing chemo and radiation. After his second to last treatment, I am so happy to say that the cancer has been reduced by over 90%. We continue to hold you and your family in the light, Danny. From Pete Creelman, says, my joy is finding part-time work as an official fundraiser and promoter for the Scottsdale Philharmonic Orchestra. And he says it's not just a job, it's a calling, because he loves working for our local professional orchestras. So if you want to hear more about that, you can talk to Pete. And to David, who is a newcomer today, who I had the chance to talk with earlier. David asks for wishes and prayers. He says, my wife is currently in a psychiatric hospital, and I would like to pray that she receives healing. And we will, and also for you, David, and as you go through this journey with her. When we are holding so much in our world and in our hearts, it is good to take some time to connect with our body and our spirit, to find our grounding, to find spiritual practices that will connect us to ourselves and outside of ourselves. In Unitarian Universalism, we draw strength from many sources, not just one sacred text. We draw it from our own voice deep inside ourselves. We draw it from each other. We draw it from other faiths. And we draw it from prophetic people who have taught us deep lessons. As we contemplate the lessons of equity in our lives, I am inviting us to take moments of silence as we contemplate the issues of what equity looks like and how it shows up. As we do this, let us listen to our body, our heart, and our mind, and let these messages seep into our soul. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. Angela Davis.
I sit on a man's back, choking him and making him carry me, and yet assure myself and others that I am very sorry for him and wish to ease his lot by all possible means, except by getting off his back. Leo Tolstoy.
If one really wishes to know how justice is administered in a country, one does not question the policemen, the lawyers, the judges, or the protected members of the middle and upper class. One goes to the unprotected, those precisely who need the law's protection most, and listens to their testimony. James Baldwin.
Your uprising against the forces of darkness has got to do more than say no. A fierce, primal yes should be at the heart of your crusade. Rob Bresney.
when we identify where our privilege intersects with someone else's oppression, we'll find our opportunities to make real change. Ijeoma Oluo.
If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Desmond Tutu.
I learned that racism, like most systems of oppression, isn't about bad people doing terrible things to people who are different from them, but instead it is a way of maintaining power for certain groups at the expense of others. Alicia Garza. Let us hold our personal joys, our personal sorrows, our collective commitment to equity, and our hope for a better tomorrow in our hearts, in our actions, and in our prayers. Join me in a moment of silence. Amen. Blessed be, and Ashe.
You can travel any country.
A few years ago, on one of my many self-help journeys, I engaged in some work related to my inner child. The book I was reading suggested framing a picture of yourself as a young child and featuring it somewhere prominently, where you would see it often. It was meant to serve as a reminder both of how much love and care a child should receive as a matter of birthright, and also that that child was still inside me, and therefore still as entitled to and worthy of love and care. She didn't have to do anything to deserve it. She was entitled to it just by being. As I've grappled with this Sunday's service theme, how to see the dignity and worth in all people, even those who perpetuate hatred and pain, I've been reflecting on how we all started out as innocent, perfect beings. And we are all shaped by this world and our experiences in it, for better or for worse. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the expression that hurt people hurt people. And in my line of work as a social worker, I've reflected often on this, reframing my thinking from what's wrong with you to what happened to you. I'm trying to remember that we're all human and that there's a child within each person I struggle to connect with or who holds harmful views that threaten me and the people and communities and ideals that I love. It's not foolproof, and it certainly doesn't excuse their actions, but it does help me to think that we all have a child at our core who is deserving of love, who has been influenced by this world in ways I will never know, and who still has inherent worth and dignity, just by virtue of being.
Good morning. The choir will be singing Praise Song by Hal Walker. Hal Walker is described as a singer, songwriter, and musical explorer whose music celebrates community, diversity, and the creative process. Praise Song is a celebration of our common humanity, the strength in our togetherness, and the hope we receive by truly accepting our equality. I have been so impressed by this group of musicians, by the beauty of their singing, the energy in their singing, and the supportive community they have created. I'm honored to partner with them as we share with you Praise Song.
Praise song singing, praise voices ringing. Ooh.
equal. We're just people. There you go. That's what we're talking about. The worth and dignity of all people. Those words that Amy talked about. And these are the words that hooked me into Unitarian Universalism. In fact, they are the words of our current principles that I hear the most people recite back to me. They are also the words that I hear the most people struggle with the most. If somebody makes an appointment to come into my office and say, I really need to talk to you about our faith that I'm struggling with, it is often going to be about the worth and dignity of a particular difficult family person, something that's happening in our world, or a prospective United States president. These are uniquely Unitarian Universalist words. Our Universalist forebears were heretical in suggesting that everyone was worthy of salvation, regardless of religion or location or class or race or position. It took the wind out of a Christianity that was focused on being the one true path and the only way to redemption. And as with everything, it's more complicated than that. This week we have our fourth service in our year series on the proposed values of Unitarian Universalism. As I've said before, our Unitarian Universalist Association bylaws said that we are to look and see how relevant our principles and purposes are every 15 years and amend them as necessary. It's been 35 years. So a panel of UUs have proposed 7 values that each have a key word, a description, and a covenant of action for each one. This month we are looking at equity. We are exploring it this month as it is following last week's sermon for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. How about we say those words together, shall we? Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with inherent dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Something I love is that our internal decor team, Marlene and Georgia, told me that the 4 vases here on our pulpit decorating for each of these sermon series represents time, wisdom, attention, and money. I love that image and that. Thank you both for this beautiful way to project that. Now, you may notice a change in a word from the principle that we have known and loved from this one. Anyone notice it? Worthiness. Worthiness instead of worth. Now that seems like a small change, but it is actually very important. Let's break it down a little bit more and I want you to picture our ministerial intern, Brigitte Vieira, behind my back, who helped give me some theological nuggets to help break this down and consider. We have to start with theology anthropology. It's a fancy word for what is the reputation of human nature? What is the relationships between humans and the holy? What is the human condition? This is really fun, juicy stuff that we've been rumbling with over generations and across religious traditions. Questions like, what do science and religion say to one another about the human condition or about the Bible? Are humans steeped in original sin, original blessing? What does evolutionary biology have to contribute to these questions? Is the capacity for violence built into our species? What of our true nature can be extrapolated through science? Doctrines and discoveries about what it means to be human are crucial systems of meaning-making because they help create the world we're in. And how do we integrate that with how we experience the human condition? Unitarian Universalism is part of a long legacy of progressive liberal religion that has tried to expand what it means to be human in more socially just and life-giving ways. Unitarians rejected the Calvinist doctrine of original sin and affirmed theological self-worth, encouraging human life to grow in likeness to God by nurturing an inner divinity. This was pretty radical of the Universalists, that the idea that the human doctrine of asserting that none of us were going to an external hell, and that we all had internal divinity. And from these roots came our currently bold declaration that humans are worthy and have dignity. So it's important to know that that wording there comes from some watered down language from Immanuel Kant. How many know Kant? You were a lot of bright people here. A German Enlightenment philosopher. He influenced the dominant Eurocentric culture. And for many of us, it is that language, and it's the anchor of this revised value. And UUA President Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt helped us spiritually mature our faith when she reminded ministers at a collegial gathering that Immanuel Kant was the ethicist behind these words, was also the father of modern-day racism. In Kant's day, inherent worth and dignity was available only to individuals that were like him. White, privileged, cisgender men. Out of this very ethos, we've built entire systems and theologies that have oppressed people and oppressed the planet in horrific ways. And the word worth has historically also had some complicated meanings. Worth has a financial meaning. And the truth is that in our history, especially our American history, some people were worth more than other people. And for our African American ancestors, their worth was often decided on by auctioneers who bought and sold them as commodities. It is important, and it was important to those who were charged with rewriting this, that we acknowledge this complicated history and meaning that we have with this intrinsic part of our faith, and that we are explicitly clear that each person has worthiness, hence the change in that word. That is much more than our numeric or metaphorical worth. Our worthiness is more than our worth. No matter what we do or who we are or what we believe, we have this inherent worthiness. We are worthy of respect and care and equality. I hope this change is as meaningful to you as it is for me. So let's talk now a little bit about what Amy was struggling with and what I struggle with and what some of you have struggled with when you think about the worthiness of certain people in your lives. I want to make some clear distinctions. Many people have equated inherent human worth and worthiness with inherent goodness. For our UU ancestors, the story of humans is less about how great humans are and more about how great love is. A love that is so great that it will not let us go. A love that will guide us and shape us and be with us no matter who we are. A love that is here and now in our theological value of equity. So when you are struggling with how a person can be inherently worthy, I encourage you to shift your gaze to the love that is so abiding that it is available to everyone, whether they pick it up or not. It is about the love that everyone has access to, not the individual person. A challenge for us in our individualistic time. It is that recognition that Amy said that each person is that child born of pure love and is worthy of that love, and that that love is available to us because of our very state of being human. This is the kind of love that invites us into a faith that covenants around inherent dignity and worthiness out of a powerful sense of social solidarity. This faith invites us to participate in this interdependent web of life through practices of equity, for we each have within us and among us the capacity to break or make our sacred connections to ourselves, with each other, with the earth, and with the holy. As the UUs of today, we are charged to go forth, making equity our embodied, lived way of being. So that leads us to the commitment part of this value. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Note that it doesn't say that we're all the same. It doesn't say that we should all be treated equally. It specifically calls us to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. That means looking at who is not currently included and who does not find us accessible. That can mean everything from making an accessible front entrance to recognizing the classism that often comes with Unitarian Universalism, to working on dismantling racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and all of the ways that we other each other. It calls us to go further than some of the mainline Christian churches that say we welcome all, even though many of us know that that has a lot of caveats to the all. It does not put the onus on others to know that they are welcome. It puts the onus on us to build and sustain a community that is inclusive, that is radically welcoming. It is not the work of the oppressed to change us. It is our work to do. I love a faith with a statement that calls me into that brave courage. For me, it is important to recognize the oppressive anthropology of the worthiness conversation, and that it is now connected to building and sustaining those communities, that those two are linked. We have worthiness, therefore we must build. At a time in our faith when we must ask ourselves, how are we individually and collectively called to make sure we covenant in ways that co-create collective flourishing? If UUism is going to survive as a liberal religious tradition, it will need to also become a liberatory faith movement. To do this, we can become part of this spiritual maturation by growing our theological anthropology to be anti-oppressive as a faith. It is not enough to affirm and promote inherent dignity and worthiness if it is not held within an equitable community committed to radical belonging and an expansion of access. For what dignity is possible if dignity is not accessible to all? These two elements, dignity and worthiness of all people, and the work to create equitable communities, gives me hope. It is something that I feel distinctly separates us from other faiths. It is a bold and brave challenge. Neither of these elements are easy, but both of them are critical. They give me hope because I see them as a clarion call for how I want the world to operate. And they are concrete ways that we are unique as a faith. They give me direction for how I consider my fellow humans and how I make decisions within my community. Paul Hawken is an American environmentalist and an economist and says, "When asked if I am pessimistic or optimistic about the future, my answer is always the same. If you look at the science about what is happening on Earth and aren't pessimistic, then you don't understand data. But if you meet the people who are working to restore this earth and the lives of the poor, and you aren't optimistic, you haven't got a pulse." What I see everywhere in the world are ordinary people willing to confront despair, power, and incalculable odds in order to restore some semblance of grace, justice, and beauty to this world. Seeing the dignity and worthiness of every person is inherently a hopeful act. It is believing that we are all made of this star stuff, and star stuff is amazing, and that all of us made of star stuff can make better communities together if we work at it. So in these times of uncertainty, of seeing the challenges in the world, I encourage you to be the heretic that our faith comes from. Look out at this world and search for that love that won't let us go. Recognize that inherent dignity and worthiness in all people. Find their inner child. Soften your heart to find their humanity. Be open to the possibility of what that worthiness can create in connection, and foster the ideals of love and peace within communities. And then work yourself and commit yourself to create that community where all of these beautiful humans can be fully welcome, included, and feel like they belong, creating the world we dream of. This is our mountaintop. May we travel it up together with our faith as our guide and our community as our comfort. May it be so. Our closing.
Amen.
Sorry, I'm not used to having responsibility here. Will you please rise in body and or spirit, and we will sing number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us.
As we close our service, we remind you to reach out to someone new or someone you haven't seen for a while. Our exploration hour for children and adults start at noon and will be listed on the screen following the service. Sam will be selling tickets for Joe Jenks. In the back, you can go online and do that, and all the wonderful things in this community. Go with the love that cannot be held. Go in community knowing that you are full of worthiness and dignity, and that we will work together to create communities of equity, hope, and love. Go in peace, go in love.